on the speed.
Yes. Oh, so as I pass this, I would just like to point out that people have talked about a subcommittee, even though the full committee doesn't meet until the application has been produced. We can still have an opinion if we're allowed to put it on the agenda to actually take a position, or maybe some vague document that includes a lot of conflicting opinions to show more accurately what the views of the committee are. It should be sent to the State Board of Education as, outside of the application process. And it doesn't have to actually support one thing or another, it's just that there would be our opinions, that a collection of the opinions of the committee that's based on knowing all the facts.
Yeah, so Tom Waller, a couple of specific questions, then I have a general kind of comment. The 5% and this, the package, the way this is going to be packaged, that's meant to be cumulative for all outstanding monies yet to bond. Is that right?
That's correct. It would cover all, if it's approved in this format, it would cover all of your bonding authorizations that have unissued bonds. And I think the number was discussed earlier. I'm 800 and something is still on the table, but it would cover all of those measures, and it would depend on which one funded what project as to what pot the district took it out of.
And then that assumption built into that is that 5% is good for all outstanding measures, that are left of each measure, based on a number of assumptions, one of the key ones of which is this 4% annual growth as well.
Well, excuse me, but there's a test every single time the district goes to issue a new bond issue. There are two tests. One is the bonding capacity test. So at that point, the district has to certify that they have reasonable projections that they'll be within the 5%, 2.5% bonding capacity, and they can't issue if they're above the 2.5, if you don't get a waiver. If we have a 5% bonding capacity, then the district does a test at 5%. Now that's the principal amount of outstanding bonds plus the principal of the bonds they want to issue at that time. Okay? And then that's further constrained by Prop 39, which has the $60 per 100,000 limit. Those are two tests they have to do every time they go.
Oh, I see. And I have another number of other, I guess, specific questions, but I so agree with what's been said about the need for us to become more informed on this. So I guess I'll bite my lip and save those. One last specific or / general kind of question. Would you characterize, because it seems to be the education code 2.5% limit that is called for all this. Is that right? That's built into the education code. Right?
It is. There are different limits for different kinds of districts. A unified,
right. So a unified district
2.5.
has the 2.5%.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
So would you just generalize for the state of California then, since this only applies to the state of California?
Correct.
What's just the general situation out there among all unified school districts that have done this kind of thing? Are these waivers one of those things that, boy, whoever wrote that part of the ed code really messed up by having the 2.5%, because boy, everybody's getting waivers or seeking waivers? Just generally characterize that, would you please?
Yes, please. There are a lot of school districts of all types that have gotten these waivers. There are K-8s, there are unifieds, there are high school districts. High school districts have the hardest time because high schools cost a great deal of money and they tend to have a relatively small assessed valuation. And they only get the 125. So that's very difficult for them. The state board considers probably 4 or 5 waiver applications in a typical meeting, and they might get as many as 10 or 12. So a lot of districts all over the state of California are having this problem and having to ask for a bonding capacity waiver. It's not at all infrequent. I would say we handle 3 of them a year for our clients.
So our district has 4 that's been approved, and this would be a 5th, and we'll generalize it to the 5. That's what we're seeking. And the upshot of it is, if it's not approved, then, as Mr. Fay is saying, it just slows everything down.
That's correct.
Okay. So now my just general comment, I guess. So to me, the good news is we got this on the agenda, got this out on the table. The bad news is, right now, I feel terribly used. And I feel soiled. Like I really can't wait to take a shower. And I don't mean to overly dramatize this, but I'm kind of, I think, chiming in with a number of people around the table that, boy, here we are, 13 days from when this thing's going to be voted on by the citizens. And I realize the waiver application goes on beyond whether it's approved or not approved. And I guess if it's not approved, I guess probably still have to go for the rest, for the rest of the money that's still left. But there's just no question. I mean, the cynic in all of us would say, "Holy cow, are we being used or what?" We're getting the ticket punched here tonight by, in the sense that, well, he consulted with the CBOC, and I think it's already been made clear that this has not been a full consultation in the sense of the give and take and whether or not we have some kind of yay or nay on it, because I would never allow my name to be used with approving anything that we've heard tonight. And I think that's the general feeling. So, I'm not directing this at you, and you know, it's really the school district, and shame on us as a CBOC, because we've been hearing about Measure H and so forth, and shame on us for not being more assertive in saying, hey, look, people, you know, let's don't wait till the last minute. Literally, here we are, 13 days before this thing can be voted on by the citizens. And again, knowing that the waiver process proceeds past that. But it just really has to go on the record of how bad this has evolved. And we just deserve to be mad as hell. And that just needs to be expressed. But I'm just so glad we got this out in order to become properly and rightfully mad as hell, as far as I'm concerned. And what exactly we do about it now is certainly, I think, a key question. I do think this sort of notion of a subcommittee or some ad hoc group of us or something that says, well, boy, how can we get smarter on this at some point to hopefully have some position that we can take on it, because we're not fully informed tonight. Again, appreciate the focused presentation. We've got the literature or the presentation to look at here, but this just really stinks. And I'm just sorry that I have to say that. And it's more of just a generalized observation about this that is really troubling. So with that, I will pass the microphone.
Mary Ann Harrison. I wanted to thank my fellow members for their eloquent comments. I think you spoke for all of us, and I thank you for that. I have specific questions to your presentation. I sat and was part of a presentation for Measure E, and I am concerned that we didn't address these other measures at that time. So I'm wondering why, when you received the waiver on Measure E, that you did not address J or D. Because it seems like we knew this was coming a year ago, so why wasn't that addressed then? Why are we spending more money to address something that we knew was going to expire a year from the presentation you made on Measure E?
I don't know the answer to that.
And, okay, and follow-up question. Why is 2025 the magic number, magic date? It's also the date that Measure E expires. So why is that the date you're going for?
I don't think there is a magic number or a magic date per se. It's an amount of time that appears reasonable based on a set of assumptions. As was mentioned earlier, a lot is not known, and we hope that this is going to be adequate based on a projection of 4%, based on an estimated need of the building program. And I guess if we get that, we'll see as we get further in the program. It'll depend in part on the AB growth, just as I'm sure, in O2 Measure D, when they went for 3%, they assumed at that time that was